Are we all standing for the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Welcome to the NERC Executive Board meeting for March 17th, 2016, and happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody.
Thank you. Same to you, sir.
A lot of Irish here, and they're green. Mr. Mayor, are you Irish?
Yes, sir.
I didn't know that.
Who isn't today? We all are.
Everybody is, right?
Today.
All right. I assume everyone has had an opportunity to look at the minutes for February the 18th, the full commission meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes of the February 18th commission meeting? No. Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Yes.
I have a second.
Mr. Chairman, I'm
Yes.
sorry, I didn't. On page 4, under resolution 1603, we got a motion and a second. It didn't identify who made the motion, or maybe it did identify who made the second.
Okay, we can check the minutes.
I'm sorry, could you repeat? I can hear you, I'm sorry.
Say the fourth bullet,
Okay.
please identify who did the motion in the second.
Resolution 1603.
Okay.
We can check the tape for
It's
that.
got Mayor Wilson doing both first and seconds.
Well, she's privileged to do that. You can do that.
Yeah, okay.
It's okay.
What you could.
We'll accept it. Okay, we'll make that. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved, and we have a
Mr. Chair, they're on their way. They should be coming in the door most momentarily, but
we
they're not
circle
quite
back
here,
to
so if we could continue on and come back to that at
Okay.
All right.
We'll circle back to that. Let's do number 4. I have a very brief report, and that report is that if you have not received your sign-up sheet for committee assignments, please let Mary know. Those were sent out last week on the email, and we need to get names on paper for our committees, please. There's a new paradigm that we're trying out now, new committees, new committee structure, and we'd really like to get that up and rolling so that we can see if there's an area that needs to be tweaked or adjusted or whatever. I know Mayor Milo put a lot of work, and her group put a lot of work into this restructuring, a new paradigm for the committees, and we would like to see how it goes as quickly as possible. So if you haven't responded, please respond on the email, to the email that was sent out, and we will then take a look at that and do some balancing, see if we can get some things worked out where necessary, so we have a good cross-section of everybody, county-wise and experience-wise on the committees. So that would be my only part of the report this morning would be check your committee descriptions and please make a choice so we can get started on that. They vary from very interested on down. And you may not always get your first choice, but we'll do what we can to accommodate your wishes. So the balancing will take place after we get the names in. We can't do the balancing until you respond. So we would appreciate that very much if you would do that. That's all I really had to add other than the fact that we'll bypass the exercises today and go right to Mr. Ty O'Warner, who is here to give his executive director report.
Thank you. Mayor Milo did contact me this morning and sent her regrets about not being here this morning, and I told her I think her exercises would most likely be missed, and that I think
Only Mayor Milo has the expertise and the persuasive power to get a room of mature adults to exercise first thing in the morning. I'm not going to take that challenge on.
And I would be remiss if I didn't say, I think she would say that she hopes she has instilled a habit that you will do this on your own accord without an actual meeting.
She has no fear of that.
She doesn't. Just a few very quick things. First of all, the update companion to the 2040 Comprehensive Regional Plan. You all approved this last year, but we have now started printing the official copies of it. Thank you very much. official copies of it. I don't know that we have the copies actually here, but we will be getting copies to you of that document so that you have the update to the 2040 plan. Again, it wasn't significant changes, but just brought it current to the current year of 2015. So we'll get those to you shortly. And really the only other item I have is just once again to express my thanks to the Construction Advancement Foundation for this space. We won't be certain until we send out the notices to you to indicate that this is indeed the case, but in all likelihood, we should be back in our old/new space across the street at NERC offices for the meeting in April. Portage is actually cleared out of that space. We just have to do a few things in the auditorium to get it ready. But we'll be back in that space. And I'll give you a little sneak preview, heads up. We have conference rooms in our new space that have been renamed according to bodies of water. And so the working title for the former auditorium is the Lake Michigan Room. So when you see that on your agenda, you'll know what we're talking about. So we will stop using the term auditorium. That will most likely be the name. That's really all the items I have, but I also, just my Welsh heritage impels me to say that even though St. Patrick was a missionary to Ireland, he actually was captured from the area of Wales. So technically, St. Patrick was a Welshman, but nevertheless, happy St. Patrick's Day.
Well, as a representative from with Dutch heritage, I can't claim even that. So, I believe we'll move to number 6 then, Diane, if that's all right. Finance and personnel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Finance and personnel met this morning, and we have one item to present to the executive board, and that is the agreement between the Northwestern Indiana Regional Planning Commission and the Kankakee River Basin Commission for the general provisions of general services. This is the agreement that was the same as last year. No changes, and finance and personnel recommend that this be approved by the executive board. That can be found on pages 10 through 12 in your packet if you'd like to look it over.
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the report for Kankakee River Basin, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Report is approved. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. EMPC, Mr. Benson.
Sure. We had a meeting. The minutes are on pages 13 through 17, and we have a Deep River Watershed Plan report. This is a heads up that next month will be coming for approval, most likely. A little history about this: the NERC EMPC released the Deep River Portage Burns Watershed Management Plan, created with item grant funding for a 30-day public comment period as per the PPP, which is the Public Participation Plan, on March 3rd. Comment period closes April 2nd. A watershed management plan is a policy, planning, and implementation recommendation document for a multi-jurisdictional area. It is not enforcement or regulatory. Joe Exel has been working with municipal staff and stakeholders for over a year on this document. NERC's planners, the stakeholders, planners, engineers, or stormwater managers should be aware of it and participated in meetings. Specifically, local government steering committee meetings have included staff from Crown Point, Hobart, Gary, Merrillville, New Chicago, Portage, Lake and Porter County Surveyor, Lake and Porter County Stormwater. Is that stormwater? Yes, district. Sorry, Lake County Parks, Little Cal, RBC, and other jurisdictions in the watershed are Lake Station, Schererville, Winfield, Lake of the Four Seasons, fraction of St. John and Griffith, and a tinier fraction of Cedar Lake. EMPC will be asking for commission approval in April, pending item and EPA approval of the plan. NERC will then be developing an implementation cost share program for stormwater quality projects in the critical areas identified in the plan. Again, this is not enforcement or regulatory, and it will be a first for NERC, as is this whole watershed plan. Item asked NERC to take this on, and it's a first. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Benson. We'll move to technical, or the Transportation Policy Committee, as it's currently called, but it will be the Technical Planning Committee at some point. Mr. Decker.
Yes. The Transportation Policy Committee met on March 15th. The committee heard a presentation from the Indiana Toll Road operator about their 8090 push project, a planned 73-mile rehabilitation of the toll road from Lake Station to Elkhart. It's a $200 million project scheduled to start April 4th. And I know it's the 1st of April. I thought I heard it was the 4th. And it was to go by December of 2017. Information can be accessed by the project website at 8090push.com. We had one action for consideration, which involves Resolution 1609, which is found on pages 18 to 21 in the meeting packet. This is the 16th amendment to the fiscal year 2016-2019 Transportation Improvement Program. And Belinda will describe this proposed amendment, which the Transportation Policy Committee recommends on Resolution 1609.
Thank you, Commissioner Decker. If you look on page 20 and 21, you see the list of projects that Mr. Edwards has put together for amendment number 16. Extends apologies, you can be here this morning. They are fairly straightforward projects. These are all state-sponsored, except for the last one, which is the City of Michigan City's replacement buses that the enlightened people in LaPorte County have voted to extend some STIP money for, STP money for public transit. So if there's any questions, I will try to answer them. Individual projects, I'll make it up as I go. Any questions?
Thank you, Belinda. The committee also took action on a number of products related to an amendment in NERC 2040 Comprehensive Plan Update Companion. These include recommended approvals for air quality determination, environmental justice analysis, and congestion management process. Each of these products will be before the NERC Commission at the May meeting, along with the approvals pertaining to the plan update. Ahead of this will be a public comment period with Stephen. You want to fill us in on that public comment period?
Yes, thank you. Excuse me. Page 22 of the agenda. You'll see there's an announcement here regarding the 30-day public comment period for the I-65 added travel lanes. So this will extend, we've already done, I believe it was 2 separate amendments that basically would do the added travel lanes from US 30 down to State Road 2. This extends that further, so now it'll go from State Road 2 to State Road 10. That's what this amendment is for. So basically that whole stretch will be US 30, State Road 10. So because we have to amend it into our TIP, amend it into our Comprehensive Regional Plan Update Companion, as well as run a new air quality conformity analysis, that means that we have to do a 30-day public comment period with a public meeting. As you can see here, the public comment meeting will be on March 31st at the Lowell Public Library. So you're all welcome. Always like seeing commissioners at those. So feel free to attend. And as always, we're collecting comments by email, by our phone line, as well as United States Postal Service. And there will be a comment report prior to any action by any committees that will be sent out and put on our website, made available to the public. So be looking for that into April. April, May, when it comes time for action. Any questions?
This is for additional language, so is there going to be additional right-of-way acquisition required for this?
That, I don't know off the top of my head.
I believe that's done.
But
I believe it's done.
it's done. Okay.
We will be starting. It's
Okay. There you go.
That answers that.
Any other questions? Thank you.
We need, Jim, getting back to resolution 1609, I'd like to make a motion we adopt that.
So we have a motion on the table to approve 1609 and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Resolution 1609 is approved.
The next meeting of the Transportation Policy Committee will be Tuesday, April 12th, at a location to be determined right now, hopefully across the street. And this concludes my report of the Transportation Policy Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. NDOT, Mr. Powers.
All right, this area reminded me, I'm going to pull this microphone up close. So, the point of apology, not fear, to my voice. Many years ago, well, actually, I'm retired. I was a drone instructor, and it damaged my vocal cords. So I know at times I talk softly. It's not because I'm timid. It's just what happens when you scream for people. It's kind of makes good people, but can't disembody them. So I'm going to hold this microphone close and speak. If I need to speak up more, please tell me, because it takes me fade as I talk more. And since we're on Irish Pride Day, Powers, if any of you ever went to Ireland, you will know to drink of choice is Powers Irish whiskey, not Jameson. Because it's the oldest distillery in the free world. I don't even know if I'm related, but I probably should be since I just said that. So that being said, we're coming out of winter. We know the daffodils and potholes are moving, so we are busy. We're out doing what we're doing, projects we have slated in here coming up. Committee to probably go through here. We are going to be busy for the next couple of fiscal years in LaPorte County. The funding we have, great number of projects. We just launched a map, an interactive map on the NDOT site for counties. You can go and click on and determine where the spending is in a particular county throughout the state. So if you're curious, you can go on our site and find that there. Beyond that, again, we got through winter relatively unscathed. We had a storm a month or so ago that caused us a challenge for everyone up in our area. It just kind of came upon us and kept blowing and kept doing what it did. But we got through it well. We were able to keep the interstates open. There was a time we thought we were going to possibly lose 65 for a brief moment, but we did keep it open. We had some east-west highways that gave us a challenge. But we got through it. Again, relatively unscathed. Our fleet is in better condition. We shared that with the community. Beyond that, unless you have any questions, again, we know we have guardrail down. It's post-winter. We will be going into our maintenance work plan and actively engaging it. And as always, if you see something, come tell me. I almost want to say, if you see something, say something. That's kind of a public safety form. I'll leave that alone, leave that to our brothers in law enforcement. But if you do see something you want attention from us, please let us know. And actually, is actually the audience as well. He's kind of my lead for communications. So if you have anything you need and want us to follow up with you, also let me know. That's all I have to share.
Thank you, Mr. Powers. Any questions?
Yes. Do you know when the plans are to resurface US 41 through Cedar Lake?
Matt, do you have a project this week?
I believe that's the coming up this summer. I think that's the project we're seeing on as well. Is that correct? Yeah, it should be starting within the next month or two, I believe.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
And that's also the project, actually, that's north of 30 in Cherville, all the way down to Cedar Lake.
It's from 30 to 231. I think that's the way of that.
Mr. Chairman, I have another question for Mr. Powers. Mr. Powers, I notice on Route 30 now, in a lot of areas, we're getting those flashing yellow lights for some turn areas. Is there a strict criteria that decides which intersections can get that yellow flashing light?
Everything we do relative to the lane restriction or speed restriction is kind of a point of warrant, if you will, and or subject to traffic study. We try not to be arbitrary and control devices. In fact, my traffic engineer here would tell you most often we try to avoid traffic controls. Believe it or not, they actually cause accidents or so to prevent them. So it would be a point of warrant in traffic study and through our traffic engineer area. If they're there because they were. So what the criteria is for flashing yellow light versus stoplight versus lane control versus added lane there are various thresholds. We can tell you what they are and get them. That is a matter of it's being warranted as that study, not they're warranted.
Thank you. Answer your question.
Yeah, because we get a lot of inquiries about all the lights on Route 30.
They would be the result of the traffic study.
Right, and just to, like I say, the reason is that's an outreach on that this week about watching yellow lights, so we'd like to get that to
Mr. Miller, you had a question?
Yeah, not to steal Mr. Decker's thunder, but in LaPorte County, we have a high accident area around 20, roughly from 94 up to about, I think it's County Road 400. High accident area last week, major accident, big injuries, nobody killed. And there are going to put a turning lane, but that's going to be next year. There are no signs, I just happened to notice going by there the other day. The signs to be posted there to say, watch for people stop and turning, because the problem, there is a school there. And the problem is there, people are stopping, waiting to turn in school, people are coming down off of 94, speeding, there's no doubt about it, and what have you. I just thought if there was a large enough sign to notify people, be cognizant of stop and turn for traffic, that might help build a good turn lane. Luckily, like I said, it's a high accident area, and last week there was 3 major accidents, major injuries, but luckily nobody killed.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. You're right, we have that programmed to add the center turn lane. I think it is, we actually, it was initially scheduled for fiscal year 18, is that correct? We moved it into fiscal year 17. That's about as quickly as we can, amongst our inherent time, as best I can. That being said, that's as quickly as we can move for the center lane for the actual construction. As far as signage, we are in a number of things. We're looking at anything we can do as an intro. Matt actually has been working with the stakeholders in that regard, and I don't know if you want to do a full presentation as to where you are and what your plans are. You want to add any more to that?
Sure. Yeah, we actually met at the school yesterday at the Polk County Sheriff's Office, our engineers and myself, and then the school, and talked to them for about an hour and a half on what we can do in the interim before that project is done. As Mr. Powers said, we moved the project up to 2017, which is absolutely fast as we can do it. We did property acquisition, utility limitations, things just take time to get done. So from that aspect, we're moving that as fast as we can. There are currently watch out for left turn signs out there, but we're going to add additional signage now. So coming up, what we're going to be doing is adding additional school ahead signs. We're going to be changing the timing on the flashing school zone there to more accurately reflect what's happening in school. We have a schedule for them. We also going to paint a school zone on the actual pavement as well, and some other additional signage. So that's what we're doing in the interim, and then they seem pleased with those additions.
Thank you.
Mr. Miller, sufficient?
Yes.
I would also add, and again, be remiss if I didn't, one of the earlier public safety partners have also agreed to make that a focus until we can do something along the lines of doing this routine traffic control thing or designate 6-speed traffic, just making it more of a focus relative to the things that are happening there. Because a lot of what you're seeing is driver behavior, not pavement. This is the age of automation. As much as we say we don't, I'd like for everybody to take the pledge and put their cell phone down. There's a sign I saw on Facebook, your phone, your car, your phone. And quite frankly, some of the things that we're seeing happening today, you can engineer pavement. As much as you want to engineer pavement, traffic controls, or whatever, people are looking at cell phones, people are doing a lot of things that they're distracted. Quite frankly, the accidents we are seeing are attributed to driver fear, not the pavements. But again, we will do what we can to mitigate any problem that we have where there is an engineering issue. But I would say in that stretch of road, most of what we've seen has been in driver making mistakes. So again, I just wanted to make that point. And we do have our public safety partners in that regard focusing on that area as well until we can re-engineer that method.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I'm concerned about everybody, but last week, quite frankly, a personal friend of mine was people who were involved in that accident. I'm sorry to hear that.
Okay, very good.
One more thing I'd like to add, I'm sorry, I did forget to mention as well that we're restricting trucks to just the right lane in that section as well. So we put signs up there. I think that's going to make a difference as well. So I was looking at that.
As long as we have particular locations being brought up for discussion, I'd like to question about the scheduling of repaving of Route 49 in Porter County.
I don't know that one off the top of my head, but I can look and find out exactly for sure.
Appreciate that. Thank you. That's in serious shape.
And I believe there's something coming up very soon. I
Well-
just can't jog my memory on that.
And I wouldn't ask you to, but the last that we were informed it was this year
I
that it was
think it is.
supposed to be.
It's safe to say in case I'm I don't know. But
Okay.
I think it is.
I won't pin you to a date, but I thought it was led in 16 to
I'm
start.
pretty sure it is this year, but I'll
Okay.
double check.
Mr. Chairman. Also in response to discussion about highways and schools, the Port District sent their traffic engineer to Porter County. The Porter County Sheriff called a meeting as Valparaiso Community Schools is under construction. They have a new elementary school under construction on the south side of 2. Just past a curve on 2 on Evelyn Road, which is located between our highway garage and our animal shelter, sheriff's garage. Very dangerous intersection. We appreciate you sending somebody. We're very hopeful that we can address the problem before the school opens in 2017. But sometimes there are opportunities, and I'm glad that we have county and city working together with the Porter County Sheriff to resolve these issues before there is an accident. I learned from a friend of mine who's the principal of the school that had never considered it much, but the parents are very stressed out at the end of the day and at the beginning of the day. And that's one of the things that really distracts the drivers as they're trying to make these turns. So at first I think they're pushing for a signal. Chances are we won't have the warrants, but at least we're considering the turning lanes, signage, and warnings before this happens.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Well, our presenters are here. I'd like to move on. We'll take one question
Is
from
it
Mr. Decker.
possible, you know, we passed a resolution last night, kind of trying to, how dangerous that was, and see if we can step it up toward the end of this year. But is there any possible putting rumble strips on that section of road just to make people aware?
R20 and 20.
Yeah.
Again, we can take it back. There's a point, I am not opposed to over-engineering this area until we can get something that's an intro. We'll take it back and talk to our traffic engineer. Whatever it takes is what I will tell you about what we're going to do in the interim that we can afford to do until the project's completed. It's just an area, again, like I said, everything from public safety focus to whatever we can go to make to warn people. But again, I would note that I'd be remiss to not note that those issues that took place there for drivers and mistakes. And it's a highway, it's a heavy haul highway, and it's unfortunate the location of the institutions that are along that heavy highway. But we are where we are, and we're going to do what we can to engineer some of the problem away. But this problem will exist after we are done. So just keep in mind, because of the location of the school, that condition will still be, even with the left turn lane, that condition will be if someone is not paying attention and operating a motor vehicle safely. So I just can't stress that enough. We have accidents on highways every day that are engineered for restricted lane, for a number of things. And things happen because we make mistakes operating a very dangerous piece of equipment. So, but we can look at that and see if there's a possibility we can add that.
Thank you, Mr. Powers. We
I
appreciate
can
it.
actually speak to that last week. Mr. Powers was in the meeting with us yesterday, so I can't speak to the rumble strips. Our engineers did look at that as well as countless other things possible to help that area. Rumble strips we ruled out simply because it would be ineffective unless we had a way to make rumble strips during school zone times. Simply, if they have rumble strips in that area, people become desensitized if they're constantly running over it and nothing is happening, like an easy outage or something. So that was looked at very closely, but it was determined that it just wouldn't be effective at anything that would contribute to drivers just forgetting about that and other noise rumble strips here. So we did look at that.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification on that. We're going to move on. We have a section here on public comment, and for those new members of the commission, I want to mention that there is a blue sheet that's at the front table. Anyone that wants to make a public comment is asked to sign in. There's some specific guidelines involved with that, and having no one signed in on that, I'm closing the public comment section, and we'll go to our presentation. We have Mr. Nolan, Mr. Parsons, you're on deck. Welcome, thank you for being here.
Where do you want us?
Anywhere you want. We'll get a mic to you.
Where Mr. Parsons go?
He's got the handouts.
Thank you very much for having us here today. A lot of exciting things going on in the South Shore. I'll touch on a few before I get to the presentation. We're certainly working on our West Lake extension down to Dyer Munster. That's well on its way, and we're working with our communities on various designs for stations and parking locations. We're also progressing as fast as we can on our double tracking project. And that'll be an item that is before our board, before Mr. Decker tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to providing more information on the next steps for the double tracking project, which will significantly improve the base South Shore line, reducing travel times, increasing frequency, improving on-time performance, and generating new ridership and transit-oriented development opportunities. We've got Wi-Fi now on almost every one of our trains, which is something that's been a long-awaited, much requested amenity for our riders, and so we're excited to bring that to our riders. And all this week, starting last Sunday, we've been giving free westbound rides on the South Shore to try to attract people who maybe haven't tried the South Shore or haven't been on it in a long time. Now, the weather hasn't been super cooperative. Sunday wasn't the best day, but we've seen an uptick in a nice uptick in westbound ridership, and so it was a fun thing for us to do, and we'll report on that to our board tomorrow. But we're here today to talk about bikes on trains, and I know this commission knows fully well that for a long time bikes were not allowed on the South Shore trains, and that there was a lot of advocacy to try to make that a reality. And NERC joined with the South Shore and some other very helpful organizations from around the region to form a committee and to figure out how we can move that forward. And as a result of the study, and as a result of some things that came into line on the South Shore itself, the NICD board approved a pilot program last July to implement bikes on trains starting this April. When we started the program, we thought we were going to do it fairly in a very minimal way, just to get our toes in the water. And as soon as we got into it, we did a test train last October. Actually, sitting there across from me is bike rider number 1, Jeff Benson, who rolled the wheels off the South Shore train at Millennium Station last October. I think it was 30th, Jeff. And we did a couple of test runs. So here today, I'm going to update you on the presentation, and if I can figure out how to move it forward here.
I'll just do it.
There's the test program last year. We did it on October 31st and 1st, and then again on November 7th and 8th. And what we're doing is we are stripping out portions of our seats. On 3 cars, we'll rip out half the seats. And on 4 other cars, we'll rip out a quarter of the seats. I shouldn't say rip out, we'll remove and then replace them in the wintertime. And then we'll install bike racks. And so we'll have as many as 26 bike racks on our cars that have half the seats removed, and 14 bike racks on the cars that have a quarter. We have the restroom on one side, so we lose a couple of positions. So we go to the next slide. So here's a picture of actually the racks in the test ride. There's Mr. Parsons. He's on the phone to me. At that time, we were probably going to run 3 bike trains next year. And I can tell you that coming over from the Metro side, I went through this about 10 years ago, and all the operating people were really worried about, oh my God, we're going to be overwhelmed with bikes. It's going to be a conflict with our conductors. What are we going to do when there's, because on the Metro side, they put the bikes where the ADA seats are. So the conductors and the operating guys were very worried. And I said, John, and John Parsons and the operating guys, we'll make it work. Well, John rode the first train, and he called me on the phone, and go to the next slide. And he reminded me of the scene from Jaws, when the sheriff realized that we're going to need a bigger boat. So John called me up and said, Mike, this is going to be, we've always known it's going to be popular, but this is going to be really popular. So we then reconsidered the operation, and that's when we went to the decision to go, instead of 3 cars, we're going to 7 cars. And so we'll have 3 cars with 26 bike opportunities, and we'll have 4 with 14. And so we've been working with NERC, and you guys are sponsoring our brochure and our marketing efforts to get the word out on the bikes program. We have rules that we'll need to follow as to where you can board and where you can't board. Unfortunately, we can't board on either board or light bikes where we have low-level platforms because we have very narrow staircases, and it won't be safe to bring the bikes up or down on those staircases. So to start off with, we can only offer the Bikes on Train program where we have high-level platforms. Now, we are actively working to improve our stations with high-level platforms and the stations where we have currently low-level platforms, and that's part of our double tracking project. But to start, we've got to do it only at our high-level platforms. We also we don't want people who riding on the platforms when they get to Chicago, or bringing dirty bikes on the trains, or there are certain kinds of bikes that won't be able to be accommodated on the bike trains, like a tandem or a bike with a attachment to it. So, but all standard bikes will fit into our bike racks. You can go to the next slide. We have a schedule that we have put together, and 14 of our 18 weekend trains will accommodate bikes. So almost every one of our weekend trains will be a bike train. There's always a worry that when you get to the train, you get into Chicago, and you want to come back, and the bike train's full. We will have even a sweep train leaving later in the evening, so that we believe we're going to be able to meet the demand, but we don't know. This is something brand new for us. We're putting our toe in the water. We ramped up our capacity, and we also believe that we will have as much capacity going from Northwest Indiana to ride the trail, the Bloomingdale Trail, the lakefront, riding up to Wrigley or Comiskey, or Cell One, shows my age, as we will go in the other direction. We believe we will have robust ridership coming out of Chicago and coming here to Northwest Indiana, and which is unusual for transportation systems. Normally, you have a peak direction, and then you come back sort of empty on the other way. We think we'll have as much traffic going to Chicago as from Chicago. So we're excited about this. Go to the next slide. So we're going to launch here on April 2nd. In about 2 weeks, will be our first Bikes on Train service. Saturday, April 2nd. We'll have decals on the outside of the cars that will designate a bike symbol so that our riders will know which train will accommodate the bike racks, and thank you, NERC, for sponsoring that. Between April 2nd and the end of October, we will have 130,000 bike opportunities. Now, certainly on rainy days or on cold days or later in the evenings, we may not be at capacity, but we want to give you a sense for the opportunities to bring bikes on our trains. And it is starting off as a weekend service. So we're going to see how it works. We're going to get our feet wet. We're going to run the Bikes on Trains program on the weekend. And then at some point in time, I'm sure we're going to be asked to consider off-peak service. Peak service is always difficult because we're almost at capacity, and there's, our first obligation is to carry our riders. And so if we would have to give up 2 seats to a bike to eliminate rides for our fare-paying customers, that's a tension that we're going to have to balance. But I can see us down the road getting into off-peak and maybe the windows of the peak kind of bike service. But hey, we're going to start with Bikes on Trains. It's a 1-year pilot program, and we're very, very excited about it. You go to the next slide. If you can click that top video, if it'll work. Now this video is taken from the Utah transit system. They don't have a lot of folks on the trains on a daily basis, so they don't have a restriction. But But the company that's designing the bike racks is Sportworks. They're out of Seattle. And the design that they're using was a design that's implemented because of our service. We said to them, we don't want the traditional bus horizontal rack. We need to accommodate space. Can you do something on a vertical, on a 45? We didn't want the full vertical because those flop back and forth. So they worked with us, and they're marketing this design across the country. And here's a quick clip of, so you can see the new design.
Living downtown for the past 5 years, Kim has enjoyed the ability to ride her bike to work. But now, with her growing family, Kim has moved to the suburbs and is commuting into the city. Living several miles away from her office, Kim still looks forward to riding her bike to work. Only now, instead of using the buses, Kim rides the train into the city. Kim is pleased to find the same thoughtful design on the trains that she had on the bus, a design that fills the need for Kim's ever-changing environment. Because no matter where Kim moves, we want to move with her. Sportworks, for the way you ride.
We have found that we did our test drive, and we can see how easy it was for Kim to get on the bike. Jeff even was able to do it.
I know. Very well. Say no more.
And the other, you don't have to watch the other one. The other one actually is a video that Joe Ditz out of the South Bend Tribune did. It's on our website. And Joe is an outdoor enthusiast, and we called him up and invited him on the test drive. He said, "Really?" And he put one of those GoPro helmets on. He rode all over the city, and so it's it's on our website. You can click on it. But we are very, very excited about the opportunity to bring bikes on trains to the region. We know that there's a lot of work being done. Mitch Barloga is working on the trail map. And we are excited to be part of it. If you go to the next slide. But here's something that I would ask the commission to work on. And that is, this is the Chicago Divvy program. We do have low-level boarding stations, and so we're not going to be able to serve everybody in our region. In addition, we may have bike capacity. So we see an opportunity from the South Shore to work with the communities on a pilot program, and we would put up some capital and some operating money. But we would want to know that the communities wanted it, because we certainly could have the Divvy or V-Cycle or whatever the program is, hosting it at our stations, but you'd have to decide, where in your communities you would want the other locations. And I've talked to Michigan City as an example. Maybe we put it at the 11th Street Station, and there'd be a place at Washington Park, and maybe one at the Lighthouse, and they'd have to all think it through. And I'm sure we could probably get sponsors for this too. The healthcare companies often want to be part of those kind of programs. But we do have a hole right now in our Bikes on Trains program. And so, and we also have a gap between how we get the people from Chicago. We want to entice them out here to Northwest Indiana. We bring them out, but then how do they get to that next step? I've often said, getting from the Dune Park Station to the state park is like the Grand Canyon for a lot of people, because if you're a family, how do you transport your stuff to the beach? It's just not a reality. Maybe if we had a Divvy-like or a V-Cycle-like program or some other system, but I see that as an opportunity. I think from the South Shore, I would recommend to our board being involved in a pilot program. I think, someone like, Mitch Barloga would be a good person to oversee that. Mitch, I don't know if Mitch is here, but Ty, I nominate Mitch. We see there's more than just the Bikes on Trains program that we want to be involved in. We're excited about it. And then take me to my last slide. I couldn't help recognizing St. Patrick's Day. And yes, that bike is a tandem and will not. I want to use that in the quiet man. That is a bike that will not fit on our train. So I thank you for having us here today. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions or discussion?
Did I hear you say there's 130,000 opportunities during your window of transportation for people to either come from Chicago, people from here to Chicago.
That's right.
30,000.
Already 30, between, when you take all of our trains and you look at the number of racks that we'll have, that we're running them all day on the weekends, every day, every weekend day till from October back to April. It's around about 130,000.
Is in that April to October.
It's that April to October window, yeah.
Yes.
I want to say thanks, Mike. I think it's a great idea. From Hammond, the one-way trip from Millennium Station is probably a really healthy ride, 30, 40 miles, but I think a lot of people do it. I want to say thank you. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, you're welcome. I've heard you might take it in right
Put it in my
back.
Yeah, so it's a really cool idea, and I think the divvy stations at the South Shore makes total sense, because we've talked about that program being in Hammond, and most people in Hammond already have bikes, but if you have one at the train station, that makes a lot of sense, because we do have other racks throughout the city, so I'd be willing to participate in Hammond as well on that.
Great.
Some trails.
Any other?
Could I just say, I think it's great too, being from Michigan City, Potawatomi Park, and Brigham City. Right now, we're looking at people coming from Chicago to live in Michigan City, Potawatomi Park, Trail 3. That I see the possibility that we're expanding beyond that to some sort of daily issue. I can see people who could live out of this area and put a bike on into the city and stuff into the cities. I think there are greater enhancements in the future that would allow us to expand residency out here to Chicago. I have back on the train on the bridge.
Great, thank you. Yes, ma'am.
How people in the next station go, and there is no place for them.
Yeah, the question is, if we're full, how will people know at the next station? And that's the fear of the operating guys. Come and say, oh my God, what do we do when we're full? First of all, we're going to make every attempt to accommodate our bike riders, and so that's the message going to our conductors. But we do have capacity. So at some point in the system, we will be, we may be full. If on day one, the folks in South Bend see that first train and converge upon it, they could fill the racks up. And so we will do the best we can to get the message out. But there will be some times when we won't be, it will just arrive at the next station, and the conductor's going to have to say that unfortunate phrase, "We're full. I'm sorry. You'll have to wait till the next train." We'll see how this goes. If we see that we are at 200% capacity, I will likely be back in front of Dave and the rest of the board members saying, let's see what we can do to expand this program. Now we have also a limiting factor. There's only so many seats we can take out of the train because at the end of the day we still have to accommodate our ridership, and the peak ridership is what drives this. But we will try to walk that balance. And I guess somewhat will be a nice problem to have, as opposed to if we put this program in place and nobody rides. I'm convinced that's not going to be the case. I'm convinced this is going to be very popular. And I can just tell you from the Metro experience, they were very worried about that. And there have been very few conflicts on the Metro system where they've had to turn people away over the last 10-year period. So I take that as some kind of gives me some level of comfort. But I think we're also unique. Being in a state national park region makes us different. So we'll see.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan. Appreciate your presentation. And thank you, Mr. Parsons, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other business? Yes?
Announcement, the Cedar Lake Chamber is having a business expo this Saturday from 11 to 3, and it is located on one of our federal roads that we did with federal government money at Hanover Central. We're giving away 2 free Roadmaster bikes and a 32-inch TV to somebody that comes to that, so you're all welcome, and if you want to go, I've got flyers here.
Okay, very good. I think we morphed into announcements from our business. but I'll take comments either way. Not hearing any, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. And a motion and a second, any discussion? Anybody want to stay? Meeting's adjourned.